Call the meeting to order on Monday, March 9th, 2026. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilor Creighton.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda are items from the public. Do we have anybody signed up?
I believe we have anybody.
Do you have anything to say, Diantha?
Not right now.
Okay.
All right. Do you have anything?
No.
Okay, okay. And we know you do later, so. All right, so item number 4, approval of the agenda and consent agenda and approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of February 23rd, 2026.
So move.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to approve the agenda and consent agenda minutes from the regular meeting of February 23rd, 2026. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Item number 5, correspondence.
We have a resignation letter from Councilmember Harris that I'll read. To the mayor and members of the council, of the city council, dear mayor and council members, I am submitting my resignation from my position as city council position 3, effective immediately. I can no longer wholeheartedly give my best effort to the city at this time. Therefore, I will step down and allow the council to move forward with its important work. Serving the residents of South Bend has been an honor. I am grateful for the opportunity to work alongside dedicated colleagues, city staff, and community members who care as deeply about our city's future as I do. Sincerely, Teresa Harris.
Thank you. And there was no other correspondence, correct?
There's no other correspondence.
Item number 6, council position number 3, declared open for public application. I don't believe we take action, we just have to publicly announce it, correct? According to what we saw in the rules. And then what will also happen is there'll be a public notification published starting this Wednesday.
This Wednesday it will be in the paper, and next week and the following week it'll be in the paper. And applications will be open until the 27th this month. And then on the first council meeting of April, the open interviews. And the council will make its decision.
Is the, I read this earlier, I can't remember, the application, is it just a letter of intent?
Just a letter of intent,
Correct.
yeah,
Okay.
stating why they would like to serve the city.
Any questions or anything on
Looks pretty good.
that? Item number 7, presentation by Pacific Conservation District by Jackson.
I'll set this.
Yeah, it sounds great. It's benefits of paying them up to get it set up. So I mean, I'm just gonna use the computer too, or the.
Everybody has their. Is that right here, you think?
I think so. I think if we put it right there, it'll be close enough to shine right there.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah. Give it a shot.
Well, thank you. I'm Jackson Blaylock with Pacific Conservation District. I manage our marine and estuarine resilience program, which is basically just the coastal focused side of Pacific Conservation District. Who are we all familiar with the Conservation District, or what we, Great. So Conservation Districts, a little bit of background. There's basically one about in every county of the state. It kind of pans out that way, but they're nationwide. They've created after the Dust Bowl to help support agricultural producers with technical assistance, connecting the funding, science, and resources. Pacific Conservation District has recently started a program in the past handful of years focused on coastal topics, right? So flooding, erosion, shellfish, farming, moving into the fisheries a little bit, but mostly just those topics. And, as represents Pacific County's focuses here. So we'll be talking about a project we call Lifelong Lower Willapa River, which is looking at flood reduction. So, project area, basically the tidal section of the Lower Willapa River, from the mouth upstream past East Raymond County Willapa area. And it's a partnership between Pacific Conservation District as the lead, Washington Sea Grant, Pacific County Immigrant Support, Bethune, and ESA are all supporting Sea Grant is helping as kind of a technical advisor. They're part of the University of Washington, provide extension services. Pacific County Immigrant Support we provide translation services with part of the community here that speaks Spanish. Bethune and ESA are landscape architecture and engineering. So we hired on board. They're ahead of the process. They're based out of Seattle. So its work was to work with communities to learn and adapt to present and future water levels. Right. So what's happening now? How do we develop projects and other steps forward that address it now and into the future? And identify through this work that we're doing right now, which started in 2024, I guess, and is running through the end of this year. We're going to identify 3 to 5 projects that we can move to the next steps, right? That's generally providing grants for them to go forward with design and engineering stuff. Looking at flood reduction, habitat restoration, and other benefits like economic, like economic development, whatever it may be. So we're also going to be pulling out of this a resilience strategy, like planning document, right? So even if 3 of those 3 to 5 projects don't encompass everything that we've heard, everything else goes into that strategy. So then it becomes a planning document that the city of South Bend, city of Raymond, county, whoever can then use to go for funding. Right? So it's kind of paying for the future. But the main point here is that the work that PCD has been doing, as well as Sea Grant, which is where I used to be before them, was found that statewide there's a lot of opportunities to kind of overlap the community resilience, right? Hazards issues with habitat issues, with ecological resilience. And when we overlap those, there's a lot of opportunities for projects to go forward, right? So kind of looking big picture and stuff, but also really good opportunities to find dollars for those projects, which, as we all know, right, that's a hard thing to do. It's fun. So the more we'll be competitive for that stuff, the more we move forward. So starting in 25, we hosted a workshop series. As you can see the dates at the bottom of those, 3 of them have happened. Workshop 1, 2, and 3. Workshop 4 will be happening later this summer, more as a recap and next steps. But again, the goal is to reduce changing water levels, impacts on people and habitats. We hired an engineering design firm to advance the projects we've identified, or the communities identified with us. And then we're going to write up that results to assist local planning. First workshop, some of y'all were at, so it's both the city and South Bend. City of South Bend and Raymond. But first workshop, people shared local issues and context. Then moved on to prioritize those ideas in workshop 2. Workshop 3 identified more detailed actions, and that's where we are right now. So workshop 1, again, we had put out a lot of maps. People marked on there what were local assets, priorities, and issues, right? Where do you see flooding? Where do you see habitat issues? Where do you want to see better habitat? Where do you go fishing? Where do just all this different stuff? A lot of different conversations happen. And I think it was a pretty fun activity. We had about 45 people there at the South Bend cafeteria, elementary cafeteria. Coming out of that, we took all those different issues and priorities and lumped them into clusters, right? Kind of geographically. So they weren't just like a bunch of different specific issues. We started to connect the dots there. We landed in these 8 different locations. a little cut off right there, but you can see number 1 is South Bend Downtown, Central Ave. Number 2 was the South Bend Shore. People talking about a Roseland there largely, and some overtopping. And Area 3 was South Bend Flats. Area 4 is Skidmore Slough. 5 was Riverdale and Raymond. 6 was in front of the Thriftway on 101. 7 was downtown Raymond, and 8 was further up in the lower valley area. But we focusing on the ones in South Bend for conversation today. But for what it was worth, the ones that rose up as the priority to take next steps with those, and this is in coordination with Dennis and Will, South Bend, and with Raymond, and then with a few other folks, Pacific County Emergency Management and others. Projects that really rose to the top were number 1, South Bend Downtown, number 3, South Bend Flats, and number 6 in front of the First Bay. So during that third workshop, we had our consultants just draft up like where are different kind of conceptual ideas how we could adapt to flooding in each of these areas, right? So you can see this is the flats, looking at it from above. You can see the school football field right there in the middle, and the Highway 101 in yellow to the left. But each of those different options, we have a menu of options here on the right, different things that could happen, right? Some of these might not be realistic. Some of these might be great ideas. Some of them might be mutually exclusive for others, right? Just trying to put in front of people a bunch of different cards they could look at and think about different things and discuss those and see what feedback we got. Both technical feedback as well as, hey, this is not what I want to see. So what, without going too much into detail for that, I can get y'all these documents if you want. But what kind of came out of the top of that was people were really interested in some sort of a opportunistic stormwater unit, right? Some way that we could look across the whole neighborhood and start to store and slow water in a way that it doesn't overwhelm the city's pipe system and starts to reduce kind of the ponding and nuisance flooding, right? You see in the bottom there, it's right off the 101 on Broadway, I guess, where a lot of water sitting right there. This might not be something that addresses that type of flooding, right? But what it would do is have rain gardens and swales and other small site-based stuff, a bunch of small things instead of one big thing that can start to address these smaller flooding issues. Like right here, you see at South Bend or the Learning Center Broadway campus, where the kids can't go outside to use that playground the amount of times they're mandated to actually getting outside because it's flooding and it's accessible. Right, so these kind of things, like how do we just start to make things a little so that's one of the projects that came out of this. Right now, we have a grant we're putting forward, the Climate Smart Communities Initiative, is the program name for it. But during our current grant, we're going to be assessing drainage across the neighborhood with that engineering team and identifying likely spots for green stormwater infrastructure, right? With rain gardens and whatever else. You see, like in Aberdeen, right? They have one of those big parks where it's scooped out and it stores water at the same time that it functions as part of this thing. And then through our grant, through the proposed grant, if we get it, for over the next year, starting in September. So we'll be doing some focused outreach and try to identify 1 to 3 projects that we can actually implement in your construction, right? Maybe the other conservation districts can improve that. So that's one project that we're moving forward with. Curious y'all's thoughts on any of these, but maybe holding that to the other project that came out of this was, as y'all know, Central Avenue has a lot of flooding issues, and on the highway there too. This is again that same image or similar image, but it's just all the menu of options that came right for this, right? But coming out of that during the workshop, the 2 main things that people seemed very favorable to were the strategic stormwater network. So similar to what I was talking about in this flats, right, where a bunch of small stuff, but more strategic. The difference there is that it'd be done with the city rather than with private landowners, right? So it'd be, hey, let's work with the city, find public right of ways, maybe we can better manage water that way. And the other one that came out of it was Creekdale Avenue. Right? So is there a way that the Central Avenue culvert could be opened up and provide a lot more storage for higher volumes of water and be able to have less flooding in the road? So what that would look at, how do we rethink the Central Avenue archway, right? Which in this both from Grant Osborne's technical assessment of some of the issues that have happened there structurally, but also looking at the entire watershed, right? Are there ways that we can further up before the water gets down here, start working with landowners or the county to have better management of the water that has less effect downstream in town. So going forward there, we have a grant out right now, Washington Coast Restoration and Resilience Initiative, which you may have heard of, but it's through the RCO. And the whole idea there is that we would hire a consultant to assess hydrology and infrastructure and habitat issues across the entire watershed with focus in downtown, and then and identify and assess options for reducing flooding. And the end goal of that will be developing initial 30% designs for that. So we'll be going all the way towards permitting and construction ready documents, but getting basically saying what's possible, what's realistic, how much is this going to cost, what can happen, right? This is going to involve DOT and the 101 and rethinking the tie gate even. Really just looking at everything out on the table, trying to have really deliver it, look at how all the waters have the and PCD would be working to kind of similarly come from these workshops to do more outreach, make sure it's something people are wanting to do. So that's the main thing. But aside from all these projects, one thing we're seeing from this work and work elsewhere, like in Baker Bay, Grayland, Northfield, too, is that when we do these workshops, we also uncover a lot of other opportunities to collaborate. Really think when we talk about resilience, we aren't just talking about projects, we're also talking about collaborations to move on to the project. Part of what I'm hoping to build here is more relationship, right? It's like, where can we go in the future? Through this, we've been able to develop a stream gauge network across South Bend, Raymond, and further upstream with some UW partners, University of Washington partners that we've been able to pull into this. Had a good meeting about that this morning with emergency management, Raymond and South Bend. And we're working right now to update the city drainage maps, right? So taking the stuff that Dennis has shared with us and all kind of connecting the dots. And then Kelly was like verbally communicating, saying, all right, how do we put all these different things into a 2026 map that's digitized and available for PGIS for their steps out of there. That's also beneficial for us who do these projects, right? But I'm trying to make it good for y'all. We're able to hire new staff, right? This was initially written as a way to provide more staff at Public Works for South Bend and Raymond. But what happened was, because it wasn't a permanent funding allocation, right? The cities decided that they didn't want to take that on, understandably so. So Pacific Conservation District was able to hire a new staff member too. So we're able to do more work in collaboration with y'all. But we're seeing other groups in the area start to get funding too for this type of work, not just this project, but they're trying to help. How do we build more people locally, doing this work instead of hiring all office? And then lastly, helping with like education, right? Supporting consulting on different arts and education that's happening in the area within the college folks. So yeah, there's a webpage we have for the lifelong Lower Willapa workshop series, and then some other resources there in my mind. Yeah, just wanted to throw that stuff out there, that what we're working on, been really closely working with Dennis and Kelly. They've been super supportive. Want to give them kudos there. But all in all, I just want to make sure y'all are on board for it too. And any thoughts, ideas are always appreciated, including this or beyond it.
I know that when I saw your notes come through, and I think it came up at the last council meeting, Diantha actually brought it up when we were talking about the water plan, the rain garden and stuff like that. I saw the it's called the rain garden or whatever they call it, different things. Right. But how it is actually legal in Washington state if you're using it for garden purposes. But it's got to be used on the same land, is that correct? For garden purposes is what I was kind of reading.
Yeah, it depends
But
on.
it's got to be routed to a garden. Right?
Yeah, if you're talking about like capturing water in like a
Rain
cistern,
harvesting,
yeah,
right.
harvesting,
Rain
right,
harvesting,
right.
right?
Yeah, that's my understanding of that. This is, I haven't looked too much into actual like using it for, garden use or non-potable sources. What we're focused on mainly here is like, how do we slow and store water on the landscape, right? If there are cisterns or other things that people can start to store that elevated off their gutters, whatever else, that's awesome. That's great. That's one of like many different tools in the toolbox here.
Right.
I think of what we're generally looking at is saying, yes, Katie, right? How do we figure that out? And we get through, there's already like the rain garden handbook for Washington. It's been created through WSU Extension and others. That's a really great little resource. You can get it from our office if anybody's interested in it. But so there's a lot of different things you can do. By and large, looking at how do we look at the landscape though? Things that might be able to store water more across a large lot than that maintenance like too. But yes, it's all part of the process. And thanks for
Right. I didn't realize that the park in Aberdeen,
Yeah,
that was for flood prevention.
yeah. It's, I mean, I don't know, I wasn't there when it was designed and built. That's how it works.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
No, I'm one of the ones that will stay here. Stop for sleeping. 2 feet of water, only $200 this year. They much super fast. We'll get rabbit trail with a lot of questions, but distract the meeting, but maybe I'll talk with you here. It's interesting.
So for everyone, like, one of the first steps of, if we get these grants, right, knock on wood, right, one of the first steps of them is to open up these conversations again. Workshops so far, we kind of come all across the whole area. Whereas these will be more geographically focused. Like, hey, let's really talk to who we live here and here. How we go from there. But in the meantime, we still got a handful of months left on the current grant. You might have seen there's a 4th workshop we have planned, trying to figure out how what is that going to be, just a more focused conversation that we can start to just kind of reach these forward in the meantime, even if we don't have this funds in hand. But let's see.
Well, it's just super exciting to see this today. Yeah, you guys are looking this hard.
Glad to hear. Yeah.
And where is that 4th workshop at? Do you know, or have you seen?
I guess it'll probably be at Southwind Elementary Cafeteria again. We did the other ones also at Raymond's too, but just since the 2 main projects were coming out of there at Southwind, makes no sense. The Thriftway 101 one, we're in coordination with DOT about that a little more, which was good because they were like, oh yeah, like the local main school, like, oh yeah, we know that, but the regional thing. Oh yeah, we didn't really even know this was an issue. Oh, how do we, so now it's like this conversation, how do we get this project going? It's like, how do we elevate this through their channels of like prioritizing it at the state level? All that stuff is another thing for me, but we're getting to trying to at least start chipping over it.
I just have a quick question in reference to the rain gardens and like how they would be, just trying to wrap my head around how they would be implemented.
Yeah.
Would this be implemented like at the individual level? Like, is that how this grant is appropriated? So people that are interested in this, they can apply, they can get the stuff, they can put this out on their own property. Okay, that's how this is going.
So no, so point, that's a good question. Great question. So that grant, we don't have that grant yet.
Right, but like, is that what you're pursuing? I didn't know if you guys were trying to pursue something like to be done infrastructurally on behalf of the municipality here, like carve out a chunk of the flats per se, to try and put something in, to mitigate the amount of water that saturates that area. I just wasn't sure exactly what.
Yeah. So the way we see that one going forward is, I mentioned there's 1 to 3 projects, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to go forward. And actually, yeah, that depends on what size comes out of it. What, could be 1 big one, could be 3 small ones. But the idea, like you said, like some sort of a program where landowners can say, hey, here's your options generally, right? And try to do something. It's not like, the same thing everywhere, but something that gives people really say, yeah, I want to do that. And then we say, okay, cool, this is how we walk through that process. We connect with funding, connect with whatever. So that's one thing, right? We're working with the city of Oaxaca right now in a similar process where it's less about building them, it's more with them about how they're more interested in how they incentivize it through their code and building programs and that stuff, right? So that's one option too, is not just us walking people through it, just saying, hey, if you do this, you get a rebate.
Well, and speaking of incentives, I mean, you had talked about how the water could be used for gardening purposes or whatnot. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great. That's like 1,000 square foot garden. That's kind of cool. Yeah. And then, my only other question, as far as like Central Avenue and Morrison Creek was concerned, I noticed that you mentioned that, one of the outlooks for this project was getting funding to daylight and do maintenance on the creek culvert and everything. Because that really is, I mean, for all intent and purpose, I think Dennis probably had this conversation with you. That's the biggest issue with that one. So is grant funding for that been secured or yet to be?
That's still, yeah.
Okay.
Totally. So what we were in, the funding we have right now in hand is what we're operating off of these workshops and the initial getting the conceptual stuff developed, which is like, understandably, it's like, oh, why are we spending time talking about it and not just doing it, right?
Yeah.
We've realized that a lot of this is that like, when you start to connect the dots and have those earlier conversations, it's when you're competitive, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of our approach to it. Sure. But the one thing I will tag back on with the gardens, like rain gardens approach and flat, is that we are currently, so there's like 1 to 3 projects that would come out of that we expect. We do expect that one of those would be working with the school district on the flooding they're having.
Sure.
At the playground there, because that's like
It makes sense. It's a big area.
Yeah, the biggest thing down there, every time you have a project, you add more asphalt, you lose more permeable space. So
Right.
the biggest thing is water retention
Yeah.
and as many open ditches as possible, honestly, because they flow more water than anything that's got pipes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and the biggest problem, like in Flats, because I live over on that end of town, as opposed to down here where like Central is, the flooding here is more directly correlated to how freely the water is able to flow, from the creek and the headwaters of it and out into the river. I mean, when we have big rain events that line up with, with king tides and stuff, obviously that impacts drainage and slows it down. But I mean, we don't really have any kind of a major water source over on the east end of town that's responsible for that. I mean, it's just, we just gotta wait for the tide to go out. It's not like we have a creek or anything. It's just everything that runs down off the hill. So, and the ground down there gets saturated pretty quick in those atmospheric river events. So yeah, anything that could, anything feasible that could slow down the water contribution would be good. But I think Wyatt's right on that. If there was anything we could do to enhance what we do have for drainage ditches that wouldn't overwhelm, the outflow capacity would be a great idea.
Especially if you got somebody building a large building or something of that nature and, you're adding a lot of asphalt, losing that permeable space, there's gotta be somewhere for that water to go. So, that's the only benefit is the retention pond of some sort.
Yeah.
Something to hold that water instead of sending it to your neighbors.
Yeah, we've also, the school districts mentioned just like that, when they have a lot of subsidies in the bus fund, right? Where they keep adding down with the keep sinking. Right, so thinking about, in these parking lot areas too, where are there opportunities? We do need parking here, but how do you have storage beneath that, right? And there are other things. So it's basically just getting involved in school, right?
Subterranean, where you can collect the water.
Exactly, it's structural things.
Yeah, boy, if there was funding available for something like that, because that would be big cost wise, but man, if there was funding available for something like that, I think I could see it being really effective.
And I think that kind of points to like, what we're looking for is like for next steps wise, right? We have these specific projects, but as far as just those opportunities down the line, right? When there are, say, a big public infrastructure project, then you are, say, redoing a parking lot or a park or whatever, right? Just saying, we have this opportunity to say, maybe let's have a conversation with the conservation district or whoever, right? And, deals with the tough but that kind of thing. It's not trying to say we want to, get any recipe and mess them up, but just saying, hey, maybe there's something here where we can add a little spice to it that makes it accessible for other funding, but also helps to address other issues too. So just trying to think about that thing, not trying to slow things down, but trying to make it valuable.
Yeah.
You never know. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great. Thank you.
cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. Item number 8. Sorry, that's. Ordinance 1614. David, that's the second reading.
It is the second reading.
Yeah. Which one is this? This one is the.
For the sewer.
Yeah.
It was just
This one is to amend.
the the language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to make sure we are in alignment with the other policies, make it a percentage. It used to be a fraction and we're making it a percentage.
Yeah, I was in section 10 and then, section 10A also updated the companies that held that NPDES permit.
Thank you. Any questions? Any motion?
So moved.
Second.
Then moved and seconded to approve ordinance 1614. Ordinance for the city of South Bend, Washington, amending portions of the of South Bend Municipal Code 1310 sewer. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 9 on the agenda is ordinance 1615. Let's get there real quick. And this is also a second reading.
And that was for section 4.
Okay.
It clearly defines our eligible, our sliding scale
That
for
percentage.
the percentage for our discounts for single family residences.
Okay.
So now it says 5% to 40%, increasing up to 40% defines our sliding scale.
Okay. Any questions regarding that one? Entertain a motion.
Recording in progress.
Oh.
So moved. Second.
So it's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance 1615, an ordinance for the city of South Bend, Washington, amending portions of the South Bend Municipal Code 13.05 water. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We're looking to approve the South Bend Water System Plan.
We're getting an echo from.
Uh,
Oh, Diantha, sign out of your Zoom there. There you go.
South Bend Water System Plan and Water Use Efficiency Goals as presented at the 2/23/2026 public hearing. Seeking for action on that.
A motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the South Bend Water System Plan and Water Use Efficient Goals as presented at the February 23rd, 2022 public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 11, department heads report. Chief Steele,
Damn it. Can you kick her off from there?
can remove her.
Nothing to report.
No.
Thank you for your report.
Supervisor Help.
I'll suit that. I have nothing as well.
Okay. Fire Chief Mickey's not here today. Clerk Johnson.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Oh, mine, I just have this, just a tiny report that's of course in my little notebook. I was able to meet with today the program director of the Association of Washington Cities Risk Management Service Agency. which we're a member of, I think you all know that. That provides our insurance, and learned about like our coverage and the services and how like our rate is, you know, like calculated and everything like that. You can find it later than that and everything, because you guys have been here. But it was just a great opportunity for me to learn all that. And our coverages, services, and then there's different grant opportunities and scholarships that we'll be applying for. And then I'll meet with the department heads to identify the policies and procedures that we need to correlate with the member standards, because those were just updated and adopted in January. And so we just have to make sure that those all match up. So that's all I have to report. Item number 13 are comments from the public on current agenda items. Anyone from the public? John?
My name is John Cochran. I have a question about that 1615 section 4, the sliding scale.
Yes.
I get that in my mail, and how there's some really bad math that happens with that. And you say, if you make this much, you get this much of a discount. If you make this much, you get that much of a discount on it, right? And it was confusing because it said, go to the Department of Health and Human Services to, see the guidelines. Their guidelines say if you have one person in your household, this is the poverty line. If you have two people in your household, it's the same money amounts, but it depends on, like it was 15 for one person, 22 for two people. And so, but yours did not have the identification of how many members were in your house for your income limits. It was just if you have the paper, I can show you. If we have the paper, okay, well.
I don't have the paper.
I don't have the paper in front of me.
I wasn't certain, and I came in to talk to Kim about it, and she had gone home sick. And so I was trying to talk to the other woman, and she didn't know anything about it. And she goes, well, we'll just circle this one, because she was to circle it. I didn't circle it, she circled it. I'm like, I don't know if that's even accurate, because Department of Health and Human Services say one person lives in your house, you get 15. If there's two people, you're at 20 something, but that's not how you have it.
The Department of, can I answer?
Correct.
The Department of, that is a poverty guideline.
Yeah, but their income limits are wrote on how many individuals are in your house, not just like a percentage of a discount, because I went to that website that it tells you to go to. What I'm saying is, you're saying if you make 15, if your household makes 15,000, you get, we'll say 10% off. Okay, if you make 20,000, you get 20%, right? Just saying, if you go to the website, that those numbers, if you make 15,000, it's okay because you're in one person family. You're allowed 20,000 if you're in a two-person family. There is no amount of people in your household, so their guidelines are based off of people in the household, not just finances coming into the household. So there's a
Well, there's
difference.
one water bill for one it's a single family residence with one water bill.
So if I make 15,000 and I have 15 people in my house, okay, and I get a 10% discount, you have one person in your house and you make 15,000. There's no equality there. That's why they had the guidelines of, if you have one person in your house, you're allowed to make, this much, and if you have two people, it's not based on just the income coming in. It's based on how many people are in your household. That's why you can't just say A plus equals 10. You have to have the secondary feature in any math problem. So I'm just trying to say that it's either going to help these guys out a lot or it's going to screw you over. But you put out the paperwork there and it's not complete. It's an invalid statement.
The ordinance basically is just what we're doing is we are establishing a discount. It's not mandated by any anybody that we establish a discount, the city is establishing a discount.
And it tells you, your form says, go to the Department of Health, the welfare site.
To check out the poverty guidelines.
That's what it says, if you need to go look at the verification of the guideline. So I went there because I'm curious, I want to ask, okay, how do they figure that number? It's not figured out just a random, like, it's figured, the income is based on how many members of the household there is. You know, so if I have two people in my household and my income is 15,000. And that says welfare will say, I'm gonna say welfare because we know that term. Welfare, it's gonna say, you can make up to 20,000 because there's two people in your household. That's how they have it broke down. You don't have it broke down that way. You just say 15 is this much, 20 is this much. There's no, because household size matter. You know, that's where the quality of the whole system works. It's not just like, oh, we're thankful we're giving you some scraps. It's not how it works. So that's why I wanted to ask. If somebody could explain it to me, but maybe I'll have to come back and talk to him because nobody here seems to know the answer.
I see what you're saying, but I'm not sure that it makes a difference. You-
Okay, if I say to you, you make 15,000 a year, you live by yourself.
So just to clarify though, so time is up, to be clear. Also, we don't have crosstalk generally. To be clear, generally, he's answering a question. I said I was okay. But and I'm just establishing protocol. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just trying to follow protocol. But what we can do and what we commit to is looking at what this thing is, establishing those requirements. What we can do and what we can commit to do is look at what that document states exactly, to look at that, and then we can formulate a response to you and email you those questions or answer those questions. Does that sound reasonable?
That sounds perfect.
Okay.
I don't, like I said, I specialize in numbers. You know, that's.
So I can't let you continue, but I'm just letting you know that that's our commitment. Okay.
When could I expect an answer?
I'm back on Friday,
Okay,
so let's go with Friday by end of day.
okay. Thank you very much.
Anybody else have any comments from the public? Okay. Item number 14, council comments. We started at that end this week, so we'll start at this end next week.
I was glad to see the apology department here and looking at all that. That's actually exciting. All that stuff needs to happen, and hopefully it'll open us up for some opportunities for grants, and you know how much you have to do with all that. There's a lot of work goes into it. So,
Years. Yeah. Definitely needed.
good to see it happen.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
You're good.
I'm good. Thanks for the report.
No comment.
All right, future agenda topic. Anything that you, just because I know from going through, like I said, the member services, after I meet with the department heads, will identify the policies that might need to be updated or what have you for that. So just so you know, that'll be, it might not be next week, but it'll be coming up. And like we can adjourn at 6, what is it, 17? 6:16. For the record.